Audio. Okay. Hello, everybody. Sorry for doing a much later stream than I should have done, but don't worry, this one will be probably only half an hour anyways. And we're not showing up on the top here, so I'll have to go in this way, mute myself, edit video. Come on. Over here, monetization on for how? How is this one not demonetized? That makes no sense. Like, come on. I thought the algorithm, was starting to actually pick up on the fact that, I'm talking about this stuff. Like, especially this one with, the more blatant, like, headliney title. How was that one not demonetized? There's no way. But, anyways, let that load. Come on. You got it. There we go. So that's live chat. Come out here. I'm going to have to actually take care of things myself if anything happens because Josh has a headache tonight, so he's out. So I'm not going to bother him. Let's load this up. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care. No, I didn't say to do stop. I don't think any of these are the tools I'm looking for. Oh, no, those are definitely not it. All right, I'm gonna try to look for uh, whatever. It's probably something really basic and hopefully free. That overlay tool thing is that unless it's in tools. No, that's just about green energy. That thing where like more professional-ish streamers basically have the Microsoft Paint tools at the side and can actually like draw red circles and arrows or whatever on Google Earth while actually using it. Then we come in here. Yes, adopt the unadopted cats, please. Let me go over here. All right, and that should be 2 minutes, 40 seconds. All right, let me drink some water. Then I'm just going to start immediately, regardless of who's here. So for anybody watching the recording afterwards, most likely you're probably in Europe or Australia. I apologize for messing with your time, but I wanted to do stuff earlier rather than later today, so stream ended up being later. And this will actually not be all that long, probably, because there's a lack of specific details, particularly here in the south of Lebanon, in the ongoing invasion and the combat in that region, because unlike elsewhere, there's like no one really lives there to an extent, at least. So, uh, as opposed to like back up in Ukraine and in Russia with missiles and stuff like flying back and forth in southern Lebanon specifically, or also you can contrast that, to like Beirut and the towns up in, the more northern parts of Lebanon that are constantly getting airstriked. We'll circle back to that in a minute. Down in southern Lebanon, where the actual invasion is happening, where the ground combat is happening, there's no one really there other than Hezbollah and the IDF. So, there's not like hundreds of people filming things with their iPhones from all kinds of different angles to like, you know, give you awesome battlefield perspectives. So the only thing we're really going off of for like ground combat stuff is just uh, IDF and Hezbollah, claiming different things. Uh, the IDF claiming that they've, pushed up to point X, Hezbollah claiming that they didn't make it to point X, they only made it to point ABC. And so I believe at the moment, Hezbollah is claiming to have only lost 250 infantry members in the combat thus far, which is really, really unrealistic. Uh, IDF, I think I've only seen them post a claimed 6 casualties, which uh, it's going to be kind of lopsided, but that on their part is also still pretty unrealistic. So on the lower end, for a few days or actually over a week of this ongoing already, on the ground front, I'd expect like Hezbollah at least is over 1,000, and the IDF is probably, you know, 50-ish. Fair chance they are higher than that. The amount of actual incursion at this moment, at least as of last I saw, was 3 IDF divisions worth, which the whole division thing is a bit mis. It's a bit of a mixed term in modern day because everybody already has different definitions of what a division is. Like a IDF division is different from what a Jordanian division is, which is will also be a different size than what a Turkish division is, or a Russian or Ukrainian division. So for default assumptions, usually you'll be told to just assume division means roughly 10,000 dudes or so, plus an assorted number of tanks and armored fighting vehicles or infantry fighting vehicles of various types. Again, the particular numbers and arrangement will vary based on the country and whether it is primarily a infantry division or whether it is a armored division or a mixed combat division. Like for example, U.S. Army divisions for our military, U.S. Army divisions uh, minus the uh, minus the cavalry and actual armored divisions. U.S. just regular U.S. divisions are usually uh 12,000 like combat personnel, like 18,000 personnel in total, but 6,000 of those are usually like non-in field, or they're like rear personnel, more behind lines maintenance. And in terms of vehicles, usually, with the exception of I think the only primary armored one now is literally just the First Armored Division. So the regular divisions are usually around like 240 or 250 Abrams tanks, and then uh, close to like 500 Bradleys or so, and then hundreds of each of an assorted type of other vehicles like Strikers and JLTVs and stuff like that. The First Armored Division itself is primarily about rolling armor and thunder punching, so that one's something like 600 plus in terms of its like tank rollout. But I don't know off the top of my head the general composition of IDF divisions, but using the generic average assumption, 3 divisions would mean like roughly 30,000 dudes or so, plus a unspecified number of accompanying Merkava tanks and Namer armored fighting vehicles. You can assume at least that the IDF divisions would not each have 250 tanks in them because the IDF does not actually have enough Merkava tanks to actually maintain such a composition. Or at least not with the modern ones. I mean, if they pulled out a lot of the old like Model 2s and some of the old Model 1s from way back when, then they could probably do that. But so invasion in terms of ground terms, that's ongoing and is kind of muddled and a bit foggy at the moment. Meanwhile, air campaign ongoing, incessant. The numbers have dialed down, but the bombings of Beirut and other locations are continuing nightly, and that's Russia. Here's more Lebanon. Not just Beirut, a lot of other also like remote locations as well. But like you got this one, make sure that's on mute. That is aftermath. I thought that was the actual explosion. And there's some stuff from 2 days ago. No, that's in Russia. All right, there's more of the airstrikes in Lebanon. Oh, I just didn't bookmark a lot of stuff. Oh, no, okay. I just bookmarked something that was dated before that, and then you come down here and then it proceeds. So yeah, there was one of the big ones as uh, a I think this was uh a parking area plus like associated like workshop place that had a large underground storage area under it that ended up being full of a lot of explosive stuff, obviously. But also some of the other things like the ones just that are more just like the burst from the bomb and then the building falls down are apartment buildings where regular people are, but also uh they do happen to be the same ones where like insert ex leader of Hezbollah here is living at the present moment, or might just happen to be at the present moment, not necessarily even live there on a consistent basis. So that is ongoing continuously, not at the intensity that we saw during the week leading up to the start of the actual invasion. The the air campaign right now, during that week, the first week, or sorry, the week leading up to the first week, they were pulling numbers like between 200 and 300 airstrikes per night. Now it's back down into I think the higher double digits. So above 50, but below 100 airstrikes per night. So it's still an exceedingly high number compared to the 2 months beforehand, where they were doing like one, two, and then sometimes maybe five or six airstrikes a night. They did the lead up week before they launched the invasion. They did like 200 to 300 a night. And now over the last week, it has dialed down a bit, down to like between 50 and 100 a night, but it is still ongoing hammer after hammer after hammer. Check here. Nothing from anyone. I do have that set to live, right? On this end as well? Yes. Okay. They also have apparently stepped up the strikes in Syria, as they now have been doing close to one or two of those every night, including multiple strikes in Damascus that have started cutting out members of the Syrian government and Syrian military command staff, along with the probably real targets of those, which are the visiting colonels and or generals from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, but members of like the Assad regime and also the Syrian military. Not that the Syrian military really exists as a functioning entity anymore. Again, as I've said before, that's kind of why Assad has to rely on Russia to bomb his civilian population for him, because his military isn't really capable of doing it itself anymore. But the IDF has been bombing Syria quite a bit. They've stepped that up over the last week. So I doubt they assumed that Syria was like going to get involved in anything. primarily because I really, really doubt Syria would get involved in anything because, like I said, their military is effectively non-existent as a functioning entity, at least, and is not capable of doing anything. And thus, they would have like zero effect on the situation. And also, Assad knows that he's not in the best position, and that if he got involved, then the IDF would take that as a carte blanche excuse to just remove him altogether. And he kind of, doesn't exactly want that. And also, this has had a lead on effect. So, sensing this weakness, the civil war elsewhere has started resuming, since the only thing Russia is willing to do for Assad is bomb hospitals when he asks them to. They're not really willing to do the ground fighting. The portions of that they did for him was done in the northern areas by the Wagner Group, which has now, at least in large part, been wiped out in Ukraine, and the remaining portion of it was, absorbed into the regular Russian military and has since continued to be thrown in whatever associated meat waves they got assigned to. So there's not really much Assad can do in terms of keeping a grip on things up here. And so the civil war has kind of restarted, with different groups like pushing back Assad's control, and also some of the different groups up here, including ISIS remnants, the Kurdish separatist area, the Turks themselves and Turkish aligned area, and also just different, several different. Uh, I forgot the proper term, but uh, of the forces opposing Assad, there are a few different like clashing factions, and so while he and his like actual control is getting pushed out of places, the different other groups are also clashing with each other, and some of that has constantly come dangerously close to. I'm pretty sure it's Idlib, is where the Syrian cat sanctuary place that I follow on Twitter is. So that's starting to cause them some issues up there. Also, over here, we have the other primary player. So you guys remember Iran is now waiting for an Israeli air campaign to start against them. And previously, they had threatened, as I told you last week, that if they do come under air campaign attack from Israel, they said not only will they retaliate against Israel, but they will also attack the UAE and Qatar, uh, since they're large oil and, in Qatar's case, primarily gas suppliers to the outside world. So that's probably the threat angle. They're probably trying to go with that as like as a like, I guess, negotiating point. But they haven't threatened anyone else yet. However, over the course of this week, they have expanded those threats to literally everyone else. So now they're saying if they come under attack, they are going to retaliate against everybody. So previously it was just the UAE and Qatar, and now it's also they're saying they will strike Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Iraq. So, maybe probably would have expected Iraq, but since the Israeli flights will most likely go this route over southern Syria and northern Jordan and launch their uh, fire and forget air launched cruise missiles from the eastern portion of Iraqi airspace. But you're kind of pointlessly just trying to get everyone else against you now. That's I really doubt they're actually going to do anything remotely close to what they're claiming. I I'll put, a 40% chance on them firing like another missile volley at Israel, but there's no shot they're actually going to be dumb enough to do this because they kind of know, and we also publicly said multiple times recently since they started making those threats over the last couple weeks or week and a half, that if they do just start attacking the other Persian Gulf nations instead of just firing back at Israel, then we will get involved as well and start striking everything within Iran. So that's, the better self-preservation option for the regime would be to not back up those threats and just back up the threats at Israel directly that it's making, since that way it's, doesn't immediately draw the US and all other associated uh, members of the world who dislike them to come against them and start striking them, and it just stays between them and Israel, and they get to continue firing at Israel occasionally, and thus loosely maintain their anti-Israeli superhero image in the like broader Islamic community, since that's already on the ropes as it is, because again they have made multiple threats over and over again, and also like public outcry promises about how they were they would stand by the people of Gaza and the people of Lebanon, and they would come to rescue them, and that's obviously not going to materialize. But they have backed up 2 out of 6 threats to launch waves of ballistic missiles. So not the best track record of keeping up with their promises, but they haven't failed all of them. So they are still managing to cling on to that you know number one anti-Israel stance position for the moment. But honestly, the loose group of the Houthis down in Yemen kind of have actually done a better job of actually like backing up the claims that they've made than the actual country and military of Iran has managed to. And I think that's pretty much the limit for the moment as for what's happened with regards to the Middle East. Let's pop this up again. Is anybody else saying anything? No? Is there any disconnect between YouTube chat and OBS? No, doesn't look like it. Okay. Then we go up here, and we had a number of new developments this time. So firstly, the one who's being used as a thumbnail is down in Crimea. Another drone wave attack was launched against a large oil and heavy vehicle storage depot that is being used. At least the fuel is brought there and then is doled out to the actual like trucks that take it out up into the like combat area itself for larger military vehicles. So primarily going to be a lot of diesel, and that is still on fire for a 4th straight day now because, as we've talked about before, Russia's firefighting ability is kind of gone. So, also a storage warehouse in Krasnodar over here, where Shahid drones are stored, because obviously not they're not just sitting around in the trunks of cars, and they're not just piled on the side of the road. Piling things, in a unorganized heap with no safety is what the Russian military does with its bomb supply on its air bases, which is why it's so easy to light those air bases up. And yes, I do literally mean like some of the videos we got out from Russian Air Force members themselves, especially during the first year of the war, were fascinating. Where you literally had, their like JDAM equivalent, like 2,000 pound bombs, were just like it looked like a pile of like Jenga blocks after a kid like knocks over a Jenga tower. It's all just like in at different angles in this unorganized mess, like leaning against each other and on top of each other. And I'm like, man, I'm used to like the stuff I, saw at my parents' base at Otis, back when I was a kid. I'm used to, inferior methods of safety and bomb storage, where they're like on these in these special like racks and on these like shelf things that you can then attach to like dollies and like wheel them around. Man, we need to get on that better storage method of just throw your giant explosive devices in an unorganized pile on the ground. That's the real way to do things. That's the manly way to do things. Also, a airbase itself in uh, Hadigia here. This one here, that's like this really awkward shaped area. One of those was hit. Where's the stuff from there? Ah, there we go. Yeah, this one, and I don't think these get that much. Yeah, they don't get that much larger. Yeah, no one's taking larger videos anymore, apparently. Are any of these like more sizable? No, no, no. Okay. But yeah, primarily the jet fuel storage tanks, and also some of like the mechanical lubricant and grease stuff was hit there. Possibly, possibly also some aircraft damage, but that would primarily be trainer aircraft, as that airbase in Adigia is where new pilots are brought to train on jet aircraft after, like in every other Air Force, first training on propeller aircraft. So that's where Russian pilots go to train on jet trainer aircraft. Uh, they're, the jet trainers being these like small, kind of fat little things, primarily for the sake of being cheap, and also for the sake of you know, not being able to do too much if the trainee like screws up with it. And also at the same time, over around that area, one of said training pilots did actually manage to crash his training jet. He ejected and is supposedly alive, but so one did crash like out over there somewhere while they were flying around. Some may have been destroyed or damaged at that airbase, not known for sure. We'll have to wait the usual like maybe 2 or 3 days until leaks start coming out. Also, we have a fascinating self own from Russia, because they're kind of full of those. So you might have seen this pop up, but the Russian government decided to block Discord, and that was kind of a foot shot, because their, regular like military comm stuff is not exactly all that well put together. And a lot of units, and, not just between each other and among themselves, but also when relaying stuff back to commanders, like back in Russia, a lot of that is A, done through Telegram. That's the big one. But a lot of it was also being done through Discord, and through like Discord voice chats and video streams. So there's apparently some kind of information disconnect up there in Moscow between between the like military command and Putin or the Duma or whoever's like coming up with these you know new ideas of ban this social media app to dunk on the West. You know, let's ban this social media app that our own military is kind of relying on to conduct the invasion that we're trying to finish. So self-owned moment, not known if they've restored it yet, or if they've just restoring it for their just for their military units. So we'll see how that develops later, how that goes in a little bit, in like a day or two. I think that's most of everything. Yeah, that was okay. That was the same warehouse. Yeah, about 400 like Shahed drones were in there for storage. Oh, okay. Forgot about the one in Bryansk. So there was also one hit in Bryansk, which should be this one. I should still remember correctly. Are you going to tell me? Bryansk. Okay. So somewhere here in Bryansk, another ammunition storage depot was hit. Another one apparently where uh, okay, never mind. Okay, that wasn't one with some of the ballistic missiles from North Korea. Looks like that was one just with the artillery shells from North Korea. But I think that is it mostly. Is that just Fedosia? That's just Fedosia. Uh, Not related to either conflict, but further Tunisia developments, continuing with their whole literally running out of water thing. They're down to 21.6% full across all of their reservoirs, although that was a week ago. So Tunisia might go down to their record low from last year, in which they got down to only 18% of their total national water supply across all their water reservoirs remaining. We'll see how low they go with that. They ended up towards the end of November getting like a miracle level of rain and so getting like a decent rebound, but doesn't look like, at least initially, that's going to be the case this time. Let me just scroll real quick so we can see if there was anything more recently. Stock market, trade deficit, buses, any more recent water level updates. That's weather, but where's the water level? Weather, but more water levels up, blah, blah, blah. Agriculture, news. Right, doesn't look like there's been a more recent one since then. I'm used to them doing one like either once a week or every other week. So I'll keep checking on that. But otherwise, I think that's going to be it. This one was going to be short anyways, like I said. No one else is actually saying anything anyways. Any super chats or whatever? I haven't had one of those for like a long time. Nope. All right. So unless anybody says or asks anything, that's probably going to be the end of this one. So I'll wait for like 20 seconds for the usual delay while I just finish scrolling to see. And yeah, okay, that's mostly about the Tunisian election. So nothing new about the water situation there as of yet. Uh, and my internet has seemed fine, but I think yeah, the hurricane ended up going more like this. So Jacksonville didn't really take that much damage or that much issue since the way the internet works is everything goes through like the local lines to the local nodes and then to uh, sub-regional servers, which then go to like wider regional routing servers. And for the southeast area, like Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida, the primary regional internet routing server, like massive infrastructure setup, is in Jacksonville, Florida. So anytime anything specifically happens to Jacksonville, I really that is awesome. That is so awesome. Started talking about how my internet didn't really have problems, and then it started having problems. Anyway, that's it for this one. So